What sort of life are we living for? What sort of life do we really want? What is it we really want? What do we value? And who are the people that we want around us? Because we're told, aren't we? We're told to surround ourselves with people who lift us up and who generally enhance our lives. That's what we're told. We want our life and our experiences to be up here. We think, this is what I deserve. I want money, happiness, ease, fun, excitement, holidays, meals out, nice clothes. I want life to be up here. That's the life I'm interested in. And so the people I am interested in are the people who will bring me that kind of life. Those are the people who get my time and attention, the people who are easy to be around, the people who agree with me, who help me, who validate me, people who can help me to get the kind of life that I really want. And everyone else, well, I just don't have time for anyone else. I don't have time for negativity in my life. I don't have time for people who are awkward, who don't understand my life. I don't have time for people who just drain me and leave me poorer and tired. Is that how we think? I think if we're honest, we all think like that at least sometimes, and perhaps more often than we'd like to imagine. Because if this world, if this life up here that we think of as being up here, if this world is what we're living for, if we are living for money and wealth and success and stuff and comfort and security, then we're not going to want to risk those things on other people. We're going to want to huddle up with people who can help us to keep those things. And sure, we'll help other people in our huddle, but only because actually helping them benefits us, benefits me. And so humans gather together in these little cliques and these little groups, and they pat each other on the back and they help each other out because, it's the survival of the fittest. And so if you're not going to help me secure this life, then I'm sorry, but I just don't have space for you in my life. But let me ask you, is that really the life we want to be living for? Is that it? Is that all we've got to aim for? A house, a secure income, a family, a nice holiday each year, a nice car, and the freedom to buy stuff. Is that really the dream? Is that as big as we can dream? Or is there a greater reality, a greater life to live for? Well, Jesus, of course, gives us another view, doesn't he? Jesus has already spoken to those at this dinner meal. And he says, what's he said? Last week he said, if you're invited, don't try and get the best spot. That's what we saw last week, didn't we? Why? Because everyone who exalts himself, everyone who puts himself up will be humbled, brought low. And everyone who brings himself low, well, they will be lifted up. And so Jesus addresses those who've accepted this invitation to the meal. But now he turns to the host of the party. And we might be thinking, hang on, this is a bit rude. Like, what possibly could... We understand him addressing those who've been invited, who've come along for a free meal and are bustling to get to the top, warning them, don't grab for the best. But what could he possibly have to say to the host? I mean, they're already being selfless, right? They're hosting, they're providing the food, and they're home. What sort of warning could Jesus possibly have for them? How could they benefit or be selfish or exalt themselves if they are the host? Well, Jesus says in verse 12, when you give a dinner or a banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbours, lest, just in case, they also invite you in return and you end up being repaid. As humans, we're so messed up, we can even be selfish whilst we look like we're being generous. How? By using our generosity as currency. By, making sure that only the cool kids are at your party. Oh, Doug's so cool. No one's ever said that, by the way. Doug's so cool. He has all the cool kids at his party. Or by making sure that, when you're writing out your guest list for your birthday party, you only invite the people who you know will give good gifts. You want to maximize your gifts, so you invite the people who bring good gifts. Or only inviting people who have already invited you or will invite you back. It's playground politics, right? It's playground politics. If you're not nice to me, you're not coming to my birthday party. Yeah, you know it, right? Or you're not coming to my party because you didn't invite me to yours. And it may be playground politics, but do we ever really grow out of it? Are we really any different? As we grow up, we may become more sophisticated at it. We may hide it better, but isn't that just what we're like? Because this is how the world teaches us to be. That's human logic, isn't it? I'm going to invite my rich neighbours to my dinner party, hoping that when they throw their dinner party, they'll invite me over to their house. And that makes sense. The maths adds up. I put one dinner party on for 20 rich friends. I get invited to 20 dinner parties. I've done well. I've profited. That's the way the world works, right? But Jesus gives another way. Jesus says, don't do that. Don't invite the people who can invite you back. Because if you invite those people, well, what's going to happen? They're going to end up inviting you back and repaying you. And we're like, yeah, that's the point, Jesus. That's the whole plan. And Jesus says in verse 13, instead, no, that's not the plan. Instead, when you have a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you. For you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Right, so again, Jesus is cluing us in here, isn't he? He's not talking about playground politics. He's talking about cosmic reality. Jesus is thinking on a whole other level to us. We're so busy thinking about this life and how I can make it and how I can succeed and how I can have money and friends. And Jesus is like, no! I'm talking about something much bigger. I'm talking about the resurrection. I'm talking about the judgment. I'm talking about the end of days. And so he says, if you're living for this greater reality, if you're living for the world to come, then actually you should be inviting the people who can't repay you. How counterintuitive is that? And the world's like, that doesn't sound right. That's messed up. And Jesus is like, no. That's the way it goes. That's what you should be doing. The point being this, that God is the one who gives the reward to those of us who aren't rewarded in this life. And that is really good news. What did God say last week? What did Jesus say last week? I will exalt, I will lift up the humble. If you have been brought low by life, or if you've humbled yourself in this life, God will reward you at the resurrection of the just. One of Jesus' kind of reoccurring judgments against the Pharisees is that they do everything in public. They want to be seen. They do big, long, eloquent prayers in public so that everyone can hear them and see them praying and see how spiritual they are. They wear these big tassels on their robes and they go and tithe, and as they walk in, they're like, look at me, I'm tithing. Everything they do, they want to be seen. Why? Because they want the credit. They want people to think well of them. They want that social currency. They want the good opinion of other people. And Jesus says, sure, fine, whatever. You can have that credit, but it's like, it's the equivalent like a £5 gift card for Starbucks. It's not going to get you much. You can have the immediate reward in this life. I invited them, so they'll invite me. Or you could do good for those who can't repay you, and then God will repay you. God will repay you. Think about that. As we're going to see in a moment, God's concern is for the least in this world. That's who he cares for. And so when we join him in that work, when we love them as he loves them, even though they can never pay us back, when we do that, we are brought into the life of Jesus. Because we're doing what he's doing. We are joining him in what he is doing. Matthew records this in his gospel in chapter 25. Speaking, Jesus talking about the judgment and the final day and all these things that are going to happen. And then the righteous will turn to him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? Or see you thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick in prison and visit you? And King Jesus will answer them, truly, I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. You did it to me. When we invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, we are serving Jesus himself. And let's just be clear, Jesus isn't just talking about people being kind to people who have physical disabilities. In this society, when Jesus was speaking, these were the people who no one wanted to be with. So maybe for us today we could say, instead of saying, when you did it for the sick and the lame and the blind, we could say, when you did it for the socially awkward, when you did it for the poor, the emotionally needy, the abused, the badly behaved, the destructive, the ungrateful, the unwashed, the people who are always borrowing and never returning, the person who takes but never gives, the person who no one else wants to hang out with. Whenever you do that, you're doing it for Jesus. When we show love and care to those who can never pay us back, Jesus pays us back. When? In this life? Next week? Great, is this like a karma thing? Where I'll do good today and I'll receive good tomorrow? No, think bigger. Think much bigger. Verse 14, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. So not in this life, not now, not today, but we're not living for today. We're not living for this life. We don't mind if we lose everything, if we give it all away. We don't mind if we're taken for mugs. We don't care if people look down on us. Oh, poor chumps. Haven't made it far in this life, have they? People keep taking advantage of them. Oh, what a load of mugs. That's how it's seen by the world. But we don't really care, because we're living for something far bigger. We're living for something far greater. We are living for Jesus. We are living for him, for his life, for an eternity with him. So if someone tries to thank you for something, if someone tries to honour you for something, if someone tries to give you credit for something, you should almost be angry with them. Like, get away from me. Like, tell them to knock it off. Because you're stealing my reward in heaven. That's almost like what Jesus wants from us. Like, no, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for Jesus. We should not only not seek credit for things, but we should try to avoid getting credit for things. We should do good. We should follow Christ. We should love people. We should do what Christ would have us do. And we should do everything within our power to make sure no one knows that we're doing it. Because it's then that we're really doing it for Jesus. It's then that we're really doing it for the Lord and not some other reason. We truly need the Spirit of Christ to live this way. We truly do. Because how often does our flesh rise up within us and tell us we deserve better? How often do we get frustrated that no one is noticing what I'm doing? Nobody's noticing how I'm serving. Nobody's noticing how I'm sacrificing. How often does our flesh and the devil whisper to us or even shout at us, "You're the only one serving. Why aren't they? You're alone. No one sees you." And it might be that is true. It might be. That you are alone in serving, that you are the only one giving, and that no one does see. In which case, great, right? That's not a reason to be like, oh, that's like great. Because God sees, and He will reward you. Isn't it fantastic that no one knows what good you're doing? Isn't that fantastic? That's what you should think. It's great. Or, do you know what, it might be that actually you're not the only one serving. It's just that everybody else around you is being so godly about it, you don't know they're serving. And there's you with the devil on your shoulder trying to get you to judge these faithful servants. Yeah? And this is the point. Only God knows the heart of man. Only He sees all. You don't see all. I don't see all. Only God sees all. And so all that you must be concerned with is, what does God see in me? What does God see in me? Are you seeking to serve without human credits, tirelessly, unendingly, as if you were serving Jesus Himself? Are you seeking the life that is above, despising the praise of man below? Because this is the only way to receive the life of heaven. Then in verse 15, one of those who were sitting near Jesus says, "Blessed is everyone who will eat bread in the kingdom of God." This guy is kind of following what Jesus is saying, isn't he? He's like, yeah, I want to be one of those who are in the kingdom at the feast. I want to be on the inside. I don't want to be locked out. Eating the bread of the kingdom, yes. So how do we get into the kingdom? How do we eat this bread? Well, to answer this question, Jesus then tells another parable about a banquet, about a meal, a feast. And the story, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically the man who was hosting the banquet sent out lots of invitations ahead of time. Hey, this banquet's coming up. I want you to come. And then when the banquet's ready, he sends out his servant to collect all those who have been invited. Come on now. The banquet's ready. Come in. And nobody comes. They've all got excuses. I've just got some land, or the missus won't let me. I've just got married. And he comes back and nobody comes. And so the man sends his servant out again, and this time he says, just invite everyone, invite the sick and the lame, anyone you can find, and bring them to the banquet. And so he does, and they come. Now then, what is this parable about? Boys and girls, what is a parable? Who can tell me what a parable is? Levi. A parable is a story with a meaning, yeah? So it's a story that Jesus told. And it's not really a story about a banquet. It's a story with a meaning. So, what is the meaning of this parable? We always find at Kids Club, don't we, boys and girls? We find it helpful to try and work out who's who in the parable. And then we can work out what the meaning is. Because every person largely has a meaning. So, in this parable, the man who is holding the banquet is God the Father. And the servant sent out to gather the people who have been invited is Jesus. When the servant Jesus is sent out the first time, this is a picture of his incarnation. When he first came to humanity. So he's born as a baby, he joins humanity because he's come to gather in all those who'd received the invitation. Who had received the invitation before Jesus was born? Israel. The Pharisees. Yeah? In the words of the prophets. And what happens? None of them show up. Why? Well, I've bought a field. I've got 5 yoke of oxen. I've just married a wife. And these aren't actually just random excuses. The way that the church fathers understood these to have meaning as well. For example, the field. What's a field? What's a piece of the earth? I've just got a piece of this earth. I've just made it in this kingdom. I don't really want your kingdom. Yeah? Or the 5 yoke of oxen represented the Torah, the 5 books of the Bible. No, I must go examine these. I'm right here. You don't need those oxen. I'm right here. Those books are all about me. Yeah? Again, they're obsessed with studying the law. They don't see that the law is the fulfillment. The law is right in front of them. And I'm sorry, but the wife's a heresy. She's like this other bride, not the real bride, who the man's obsessed with his bride that he's found instead of the true bride. Whatever the precise imagery, the big picture is clear. God has invited Israel to come into his life and into his kingdom. He sent out his invitation in the prophets and the scriptures, and now Jesus come announcing the time is here. And they've said, no, we're not coming. So when Jesus comes back a second time, who's it going to be for? Who's going to be at the banquet? Who is this kingdom really for? Well, the same group that Jesus has been talking about us inviting to our parties. The blind, the lame, the poor, those at the bottom who have been humbled are going to be now exalted. We read the Gospels, don't we? Jesus has come, and who's following him? Is it those people who got the first invitation? Is it the Pharisees and the scribes and the experts in the law? No. It's the sinners and the sick and the poor and the outsiders and those with messy lives. God is coming to them. And they're coming into the kingdom ahead of the Pharisees and these well-to-do men. And then where's the gospel going next in this parable? Well, the kingdom of the gospel goes then right out into the highways and byways, out into the world, that all the nations will be brought in. And you see, don't you, that Jesus says it's already been done. It wasn't plan B. It's already been done. It was always about inviting everyone in, and there's always more space. This isn't like an elite list. It's like there's more space. It's just that those who were invited first didn't want to come. And this is why God calls us to invite the poor and those in need. Those who can never pay us back in our lives. Because that's what he does. That's what he does. Because we, in the parable, we are the spiritually poor, the spiritually lame, the ones who cannot do anything for ourselves. We are the ones who are dying in the streets. And Jesus comes to us and goes, come in to my Father's feast, to my Father's kingdom. He's come to us to invite us into the kingdom of heaven, even though we don't deserve it, even though we could never pay him back. But that first group, what does he say? That first group, they're no longer invited. Why? Because when the invitation came, they rejected it. Remember what Jesus said? Strive to enter through the narrow door, because when the door closes, it's too late. As Paul is going to say later on in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul says, now is the day of salvation. Now is the day of salvation. Not tomorrow, not somewhere down the road, today. Don't wait until life is easier. Don't wait until you've had space to consider it. That day will never come. Life is not going to get any easier. Life's not going to get less busy. Life's always going to be hard. Don't wait until, I'll figure out whether I'm going to follow Jesus somewhere down the road. And don't wait until life gets harder. Don't wait until you're sick to start thinking about what will happen after death. Don't put Jesus off, or you might find yourself on the outside looking in, and the door will be closed. Not because Jesus doesn't want you there, but because he invited you, and you said no. You have an invitation into the real life of heaven. Take it. Take it. So which life are you living for? Which life does your striving go towards? Which one do you really want? Because you can't have both. Do you want the good opinion of humans and all that comes with it? Or are you striving for the high life of Jesus, which means humbling yourself today? One will bring you pleasures and treasures in this life, what many consider to be the high life, but it will see you shut out of the kingdom of heaven. The other will see you poor and tired in this life, giving your life to others, dying each day to the desires of your flesh. But that very life is the one that's going to be lifted up, exalted, brought back to life in Jesus in the resurrection. Which world, which life are you living for? Let me close by telling you a story. It's a true story. 320 years after Jesus had lived, 320 AD, Licinius ruled the eastern part of the Roman Empire, and Constantine ruled the western part. And they'd agreed that Christianity was now legal. Okay? Christianity should be permitted throughout the empire, and that Christians would no longer be persecuted. But Licinius, he abruptly changed his mind and reverted back to paganism. And so now he was going to prepare to fight with Constantine. And heading up against Constantine, he was worried about his soldiers turning on him. So he decided to remove all the Christians from the ranks of his army. And he made a decree he did this by making a decree that all Christians in the East would be tortured and killed if they did not give up their faith in Jesus Christ. And so 40 soldiers of the 12th Legion of the Roman army, stationed at Sebaste in Armenia, refused to denounce their faith in Jesus. They refused to make a sacrifice to a pagan god. And so these 40 soldiers were stripped naked and led out into the middle of a frozen pond, where bitter winds began to freeze them to death overnight. Meanwhile, around the edges of the pond, fires were lit and baths were made to entice them, to weaken their resolve. Come where it's comfortable. Come and warm up. All you have to do is this, and everything is yours. One of the 40 broke faith and fled towards the fires. And upon getting into the bath that had been prepared for him, he went into shock and immediately died. However, witnessing the faith and fortitude of these other soldiers, as well as seeing a vision of angels crowning these dying martyrs, one of the pagan guards who stood on the edge guarding them overnight stripped down and walked out onto the pond to join the 39 and to die as a Christian that night. His courage and newly lit faith kept intact that unit of 40 men who died for Christ that day. It's an incredible story, and I hope you can see the parallels there of the world offering what it's got to offer and what it means to humble ourselves. What life are we living for? The praise and comfort of this passing age? If we were facing that situation, what would we do? Or are we living for the world to come? Are we willing to give and serve for no recognition? Are we willing to be seen as fools? Are we willing to be poor? And are we willing even to die because we know that Jesus has risen? Are we going to step out onto that ice, throw our lot in with Jesus, come what may, because we have confidence in his life and his resurrection and his promise that he is coming to take us to be with him? In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.